Let's be brutally honest right now. That's a big question.
I'm looking for someone who doesn't want to go to base camp, but they want to go to the very top.
Whether it's here, India, New York.
Civilization was born at happy hour.
That's what wins. That's what stands out. That's what people are interested in. That's what I want to know. The Hospopreneurs Podcast with James Henderson. Hello and welcome to episode 95 of the Hospopreneurs Podcast. With over 40 years of hospitality under his belt, Pitzy Folk has steered the ship of many successful businesses. As co-founder of Australian beverage brand Capi, Pitzy has built a career for himself and now invests in a number of cosmetic, fashion and tech companies, including Yume, who you may remember from episode 88. Food and drink obsessed, creative-minded and heavily invested in sustainability, Pitzy's infectious spirit of generosity and fearlessness really shines through. He's truly an incredible and passionate man, and it was a pleasure to run the interview today. Hello and welcome to the show, Pitzy.
Thank you very much.
Pitzy, it's a pleasure to have you on the program. I'm very excited to get into the interview today. As you know, the first question is normally a crazy hospitality story, but instead I'm going to ask what an exceptional hospitality experience is to you.
Good food and enjoying my nights. It's really simplicity, ease, and a great enjoyment. Look, people often ask me, what is my favorite meal I've ever had? And it was fishing for whiting at Sorrento, bringing fresh fish home, ringing my wife when we had the Observatory Cafe to say, pick some tomatoes and cucumber from the garden. And I come home and we have fresh whiting and Greek salad from the garden. And it's really the company. It was with my children, and it's who you eat with and how much you enjoy it, and simplicity.
So if it is about simplicity, if it comes down to simplicity, is that maybe why there has been a movement towards takeaway food delivery platforms, people not wanting to bother having dinner at a restaurant and wanting to eat at home with their family instead?
Yes and no. I think I, for the first time in my life, used Uber Eats yesterday because I had to go to the dentist and I needed something quickly in my office. And it's a disappointing experience because the process of eating is the most important thing. It's the care. It's you get something in a bag delivered to you. You open it up, it's warm, it's been sitting in there for ages. It's not the same experience. Food is all about interaction with people, where you eliminate that with a takeaway section unless you have your children, but then the food doesn't matter, it's the company. So I think we're losing what it's all about, because fine dining to me has no appeal, because I don't want to sit and eat a 7-course menu and degustation with 7 different wines, because I just don't have the capacity to do it anymore. But give me a main course, a nice bottle of wine, good company. That's really what sort of I love about food.
Interesting, because what you are describing has definitely been the movement. It's been what people have been gearing themselves towards, and there's been a movement away from fine dining into a more relaxed dining experience internationally. But I do find that your answer particularly interesting because you started with an incredible hospitality experience being about the company, and then what hospitality in a retail experience is about the interaction with other humans. I guess it's boiling that down to human centricity. It's about the human interaction. But where does the food come into that experience, and how much does that actually affect the hospitality experience?
I think it's an enhancement. You need it. First of all, you need good company, and you don't want to go out with people you don't want to be with. So good company is the best ingredients to start anything. And then you need good food and you need good service. But do I want to go out and dine and be told what I do and patronized, or do I just want to eat? And I really want to eat. I've been eating out for 60 years, and people over-explain, and sometimes you go to those fine dining venues and it's quite a sort of patronizing experience, which I find sort of offensive at times.
And that's, as I articulated before, that's certainly the trend at the moment. Pitzy, I'm going to move on to the next question. I'd like to know what you want hospitality to be defined by.
Excellence. I think it has to be a better experience than you can have at home. It has to be better quality food. It has to be something different. And it really is, eating out is, what can't I do at home? What can they do better? It's also the environment, your wine list, the whole it's an experience. It's an occasion. And I think this is what a lot of people forget. And for me, eating out is not an occasion because I eat out 3 times a week. But I go with my wife and we have a main course and a glass of wine and we go home because we want to eat. We don't want to be entertained. So there are 2 types of what I call eating out experiences. One is to feed yourself and the other one is to go out with friends and have a good night.
Do you think that venues are catering for those differences?
Yes, I think Melbourne is exceptional. I think it's outstanding what we have here. I travel a lot. Every time I come back to Melbourne, I think how good we have it here. We can eat food from totally international backgrounds. Every nationality is presented and it's excellent. The ingredients are amazing. The quality is amazing. You know, I look at the flour drum, Lao's Kitchen. I look at the Supernormal. I look at sort of what Ronnie D'Estasio is doing, what Florentino's, Guy Grossi, and this is better Italian than I can eat in Rome most of the time. Sometimes we lack the ingredients. We don't have the fresh porcini and we don't have some of the things they have, but other than that, it's better, it's superior. So I think the Melbourne dining experience is exceptional.
Fantastic. Pitzy, I'd like to know why you do what you do.
Because I love it and I don't want to sit at home and do nothing. I'm old enough to have retired years ago, but I don't really have a job in any of my businesses. So for me, it's more a mentorship in my team, and I've got fabulous teams in all my businesses, and it keeps me alert, keeps me stimulated, and it stops me from sitting home being bored. And I think retirement to me, somebody once said to me, when you retire, you become irrelevant because everything you deliver is secondhand and nothing is created in your own life. And it stuck with me. And plus, I just love coming to work every day.
Interesting. But why you do what you do must be driven by something more than you would be bored if you didn't do it. Is there something deeper than that?
I want to make the world a better place. I don't invest in anything that doesn't make a difference. Every business I have has to have a social impact in some form or another.
When you say make the world a better place, what does that actually mean to you?
It's going towards a better experience for the consumer. Like in Capi, we're going to sugar-free, we're going to premiumization, we're looking at sort of the top end because we shouldn't be drinking litres of sugar-laden drinks every day. I don't think there's a problem once a week to have a sugar drink with something to make it a special occasion. But it's not supposed to be drunk every day. Water is supposed to be drunk every day. And that's the other thing is sort of why do we serve Italian and French and whatever water from all over the world in this country? We've got the best water in the world. We're the least polluted country. And yet we're serving water in most of the restaurants owned by multinationals coming from Europe and shipping the green miles. You know, I want to leave the world a better place than I found it. And yet we're doing all this, the food miles that we shouldn't do. You know, every chef talks about which paddock his beef comes from, where his vegetables are grown, and he sells Italian water. I don't get it.
Italy's come up a couple of times with Italian cuisine and about the water source. Is that something that's really driven?
I love Italy.
Yeah?
I love Italy. I think Italy is an amazing place, but it's in Italy. It should stay there. Sort of like we have brilliant Italian restaurants here, but they don't serve Italian meat. They don't serve Italian vegetables. They might serve some beautiful Italian parmesan, but why would you serve Italian water when we have the best here? So this is where I sort of struggle a little bit and I don't get the logic. I know why they do it because it's brand and it's sort of habit. And 20 years ago, nobody knew we had mineral water in Australia. So it's education. And I think when you try to educate, it's always a long road and a difficult road.
Pitzy, how do you define to other people what you do?
I don't, but really, I suppose I'm the yes or no person in my team. I've got a pretty sort of diversified business and lots of different businesses. And I'm the go-to person when people sort of make decisions. Do we want to do this? And this is family business. That's what it's all about. It's in the end, you're the decision maker of making the calls.
How do you decide whether something should go ahead or not?
Gut feeling.
What is that?
That's 70 years of failure. That's what gut feeling is. It's having failed at so many things, learn from your mistakes that you hope to not repeat them, but you will repeat them. That's just part of life. Failure is part of life. And that's where you learn the most from. So, yeah.
When you say you will repeat them, Is that you have the wisdom to teach other people not to repeat those mistakes that you've made, or that you believe that we will make those mistakes?
Look, I hope not to make. I always say smart people make mistakes, but they only make them once. Dumb people make the same mistake over and over again. Mm-hmm. So I hope to be in the smarter category, but I still have made the same mistake a few times. But I try to teach my team that it's no problem to make mistakes. It's no problem to fail. Just learn from it.
Yes. What are you learning about or exploring at the moment?
At the moment, I'm very much into technology. I've got 4 or 5 different businesses that are all in the environmental space, be it paperless offices, be it food rescue, and sort of it's the next generation of technology. Plus, we're developing at Capi an awful lot of products that will go into the next generation, which is the sugar-free space. It's sort of, we're looking at really interesting new flavors, new sort of a better for you space that doesn't exist now. And it's not a kombucha trend or a coconut water. It's something that actually isn't a trend, something that's sustainable that you want to drink on a daily basis.
What's driving that? Is it reactive or proactive? Obviously your answer is going that it's going to be proactive, but where are you getting the information to make those decisions?
Look, I suppose information is a global thing. You look at the global market, you hire the best people you can find with global experience. It's a guesswork. We're punting, we're guessing that this is where we're going, because sugar will never disappear, but it will be reduced and it will be less because it's just maybe not good enough in the quantities people consuming it now. You see, when you look at supermarkets where you get 3-litre plastic bottles, which 3/4 of it is sugar, and people take that home and drink that with dinner. That's not good. You know, it's like drinking 3 bottles of wine for dinner. I'd like to do it, but it's not good for me. So I'd limit myself to maybe 1 bottle or a few glasses. So yeah, it's just, we have to be careful where we're going food-wise.
If ultimately it is about guesswork, making educated guesses, how do you, in addition to building the most knowledgeable and educated team possible, how do you make the most informed decisions possible?
Look, in the end, it's really just taking in the information and then you have to make a decision. And this is sort of, sometimes it's the wrong, sometimes it's the right decision, but somebody has to make it. And when you're a family business, that's where the buck stops. And so you just have to make a call. And I think consensus with your team, you're working closely with your team, that we all make this decision together. But ultimately, the buck stops with me because you're paying for whatever failure you have. So, yeah.
And you base that on your gut?
You have to. There's no other guideline. There are no books written on what the future tells you. Everybody will give you opinion. It's a bit like lawyers and accountants, where they give you all the best advice, but no responsibility. And, all care is taken, but the buck stops with you,
In that, obviously there's a lot that you're pushing forward with. What do you believe needs attention that isn't receiving it?
I really don't know what needs attention that isn't receiving it. It's maybe, I think we're all too short-sighted and we don't think the long term. When you look at sort of our public companies who are all thinking quarterly returns and quarterly reporting, and they're judged on that. So nobody will have long-term plans. And I think the attention needs to go towards longevity, to think in generations and long-term instead of my next bonus in 3 months or 6 months. And this is the public companies and the large companies, all the CEOs, everybody is rewarded on. We've just seen it with the sort of the banking Royal Commission, where everybody was just really, what's in it for me? And I think maybe it's easy for me to speak. I've been reasonably lucky, but we need to think more about the world in general rather than just about ourselves.
How do you feel that companies can change incentive schemes for directors?
I have no answer for it. I just feel that where we have come to with the quarterly reporting and 6-monthly reporting, it's really purely for public companies as CEOs. How do I, in short term, keep it as profitable and as stable as I can so my bonus is greater? And it's never about the next managing director. It's never about the next CEO. It's all about now. And I think if you live in the now, it's good to live in the now, but you have to think about the future. And, as a family business, I think about my 2 daughters. But again, I've been lucky. I've had a few good breaks. Maybe you can afford to look at those things, and maybe the responsibility is to people like me to do that, because we can.
On thinking about the future, I want to ask more specifically around water and what you believe the future of water looks like.
I think water will be the most popular drink. All my bets in Capi are on water. It's basically we're a water play and we have to add other things to build a brand. Plus, we can be innovative because we haven't got the history. We're a new company, so we can do things that nobody else can do because they haven't got to compete with their own brands. Everything we're doing is creating new. So as a startup, you have that advantage. And water is the most important drink in the world, and we all should really drink tap water, except in so many circumstances you can't have it. And in a restaurant environment where I'm paying lots of money for a beautiful food and beautiful wine. Do I want tepid tap water? No, I don't. I would like a nice bottle of a good water that I trust, be it carbonated or be natural mineral water, sparkling or still. And I support local in everything I do. So I think, why would we not? So I think water is the biggest play in my business.
And as a global commodity, what do you think the future of water looks like?
More and more, because we are exporting to China, to Japan, to Middle East, and lots of, I think we do 13 or 14 countries. Why? Because they haven't got the sources, their pollution there, and Australia is going to be more and more of this. But I also said if I would move to America to do Capi, and we open Capi, I would look for a water source in America, so I don't have to ship it. If I move to Europe, I would look for a water source in Europe once I get the volume that I can afford to do that, because I feel that we are global but local, and this is where the world is going. Why would we ship something if it's there and if it's in good enough quality and you can test all that? So we know out of the Rocky Mountains, I'm sure you get beautiful spring water and mineral water, and the same in the Alps in Europe. Why would we ship it from here?
What about some other things that you can see affecting the future? Some other resources that you believe are going to be important in the next 50 years?
I think it's the better for you space is the most important thing. We're going to drink more and more drinks that are better for you, be it mushrooms, be it cannabis. We're going to get into the health space. We're going to be more into sort of essences and premium oils and flavors out of product rather than juices. And our palates will change, because I look back as a kid, I used to drink sweet white wine. Now I drink dry red wine, and the lighter the possible. So your palate changes as you develop. And I look back to Australia 30 years ago, what people ate and what they eat now, different ball games. So we all develop and we all grow. And I think the drink scene will be exactly the same. We're just behind the 8 ball because the majors have dominated that scene for so long.
Pitzy, when I was sent your bio, you were described as a very creative man, and I can totally see that across many businesses as well. How do you entertain that creative mind? How do you exercise that, train that?
I think by being stimulated by what you do. It's looking outside the square, looking at things, not being bound by convention, by really having a fresh look. I think so often we have so much baggage in our lives that we get conditioned to play it safe, to do this. And I find safety is boring. And I think risk is fun, risk is interesting, but you don't have to be stupid about it. You can have calculated risk. But you also need to support the people that are creative, and the team around me and the people I've invested in, I'd look at and they're super, super interesting, creative people who have jumped off the cliff to do something that can have an impact on the world in the future.
On those creative people, how do you establish an environment for them to be creative?
You support them, you nurture them, you help them try to take fear away, and give them an environment where you're supportive, and really it's being there for them and being part of that risk-taking. And we all doubt ourselves, we all have fears, and my job maybe is to be there to support them in their fears, to say it's not that bad, let's give it a go.
You're talking about giving them that flexibility to be able to express themselves and encouraging them to express themselves. How do you deliver it to them that they can't execute something for a reason that you see? Obviously, you're thinking about other business objectives.
Purely honest, and it's a conversation. It's like I invest in people. I don't invest in businesses. I invest in creative people that have brilliant goals that they want to achieve. And my job is to help them achieve those goals. And I try to sort of help them through that maze to find the right direction. And I don't know it all. I'm just as vulnerable and easy to fail than they are, but I'm a support for them. And even if we fail, I'm there to support, because together you can make it. Alone, you've got no chance. And, by backing somebody, you have to back them totally. You can't just half back somebody. I back you when you win, but I don't back you when you lose. You have to be there for them.
I like that. Pitzy, you mentioned risk-taking. It's come up a couple of times as a concept. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Everything in life is a risk. You walk out the front door at home, you're taking a risk, because you might get run over, you have a car accident. Your way to work is the biggest risk you ever take. Once you're at work, everything you do, if it's not following a safe path, is going to be a risk. And this is what I enjoy. It's, the risk-taking is the fun part, because you're innovating, you're creating, and you're doing things that haven't been done before. But even if things have been done before, you're still taking risks sometimes. Do I get it right? Do I not? And I think fear, I've been very lucky in my life that fear has never been a big part in my life, which sometimes is dangerous because you become a bit reckless and you take too big a risks. So finding the balance, and that's why I employ people who are a bit more conservative than I am, or that keep me a little bit in check with what I do. And I have an advisory board that looks at things before me, and they're far more objective than I am, because I get too emotional. I love something and then I'm in, and it's in for the long haul, and it's sometimes to my own detriment. Yeah.
Pitzy, you just mentioned advisors that you go to and maybe people that you learn from. Who are they in your life?
Everybody. Everybody you speak to is really you learn from. And look, I've got a brilliant team. I've got Emma, my CEO. I've got Upstart Advisory, my guys who advise me. Every manager or owner or founder of any of the businesses I've invested, I learn from, and they learn from me. It's a mutual sort of thing that you really, every day is a learning curve.
What about other business peers? Are you reading books? Are you listening to podcasts? Are you going to meetings with people who have other groups, other family groups, for example?
I've never listened to a podcast. I'm terribly sorry. So I'm sort of stone age in technology, yet I embrace it and love it and use it. But I read a lot, and I talk to a lot of people, and I've got a very inquisitive mind, and I find it fascinating sort of what else there is and where's the future going, where are we going, what's happening with the world. And you look at what's happened in the last couple of months with the bushfires and with the coronavirus and all this. And I think the awareness of the planet has come up more and more. And I think we, as the older generation, have a responsibility to that. So I don't feel guilt that we've done anything wrong, because I grew up with, we never threw anything out. Everything was in paper bag. The milk bottle was delivered to your front door. But in my life, it has changed to becoming a wasteful consumer society. And I think ideally I'd love Capi to be delivered to people's doorstep and picked up and refilled, except the logistics nowadays and the financials just don't allow it. Plus, it costs me more to ship Capi to Cairns than it does to China and Europe. So how can I get bottles back when it costs me that much to get them up there? So our logistics are very different. We're such a massive country with such a small population. Europe, everything is so regional, so close, so tight together. It's, I grew up where we had mineral water delivered every week, but the mineral water source was 10 kilometers from home. They picked it up, they took the bottles back, they filled them up again. Next week you got the same delivery, and everybody drank the local water. There was nobody else there. So the times have changed, but it's going back to the old ways, and hopefully we could do that.
Pitzy, I'd like to ask you another question on creativity. How do you entertain ideas? How do you sit with them? How do you ruminate on those ideas?
I'm very spontaneous. It happens, I get an idea and it's instant. I sort of execute it. It's like design, art, all this stuff. I look at something and I like it or I don't like it, and it's instant, and then it's a commitment. And I'm the same. Sometimes, much to my team's horror, that's sort of far too quick to make decisions and back them, but also admit mistakes and sometimes step back and say, yep, you're right, I listen to you, and yeah.
Which is a good way to be. Obviously, having that humility allows for support of your team as well.
Yeah.
I like your answer there, Pitzy. Thank you. How do you handle competitors in the spaces that you operate within?
Never look sideways. It's not where you're going. Look forward. Don't look back. Don't look sideways. focus what you want, your outcome. So I find competitors irrelevant to me because I can't influence them. I can't do anything about what they do. The only thing I can change is what we do. So I never ever look at competitors. I don't care. I feel that sort of this is not my path. My path is what we want to do. And so I ignore them.
I like that. There's been a previous answer on the show around staying in your lane or putting blinkers on, two different answers. So that absolutely, it's in the same category. It just describes exactly the same thing. Who tells you when you're wrong?
The first ones are my family, my two daughters, then my wife, then my CEO, and then everybody else.
Lots of people.
I'm always wrong.
But there's a lot to learn from that. When do you decide to listen to advice from the people who tell you that you're wrong?
I think you always have to listen to it. If you take it as a different thing. And I totally value my daughters and Emma's and my wife's criticism because sometimes you get a bit big in your own shoes and you need that honest criticism. And I'm grateful for it because most people are too frightened to criticize you. So it's good to have people who've got the guts to tell you when you've got your head up your ass. And we all have it. And so, I have no issue with it. Look, I get on my high horse. I get upset sometimes, but on reflection, I think it's the best advice you ever get because it's honest advice.
Beautiful. I like that. What is your biggest challenge right now?
There's so much to do and not enough time.
The one resource that we all have distributed equally as well.
Yeah, there's so many things that I'd like to do and I think that are so exciting and, especially in the sort of environmental space which I have great passion. I love fishing. I love the outdoors. I'm always at sea and I see all this plastic and I see all this pollution and I see what we're doing to our planet and it really upsets me because I love nature and I think I spent more time than most people in Northern Territory and I fish on one of the most isolated places on earth and we get thongs and toothbrushes washed up and what the fuck are we doing to our planet?
Obviously, the environment is something that you're very passionate about. You've got businesses in the space. What do you believe is providing or creating the most friction in order to make progress in that space?
Profitability. I will never knock big business, but we are all sort of too short-sighted. And even sort of, you look at politicians, they think in 3-year terms. Executives look in 6 months, lifespans of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. This is so short term. Nobody thinks long term. This is where we're going so wrong. We don't care what's after us and we have to. And even the support from governments, for us, all they worry about is being re-elected. It's not, how can we make this a better place? It's sad. It really is. The long-term thought is too short.
Ultimately, where do you want to be, Pitzy?
I'm happy where I am. I can't think of a better place than where I am. So it's just how long can I keep doing this? Where would I want to succeed? I want to succeed in all the spaces I'm in because I think all of them could make a difference to people and be more open. So I want us to be less competitive. I want us to be, as a space, to be more about humanity than just profits and gains. And look, I'm a mercenary. I do things for profit, but I also feel that you can combine the two. You can help as well as have a sustainable business.
What are you doing to change that?
Yume is one of the businesses that's sort of reducing global food waste. I've got another one which is Drawboard, which is a paperless office in architecture and sort of really from everything from medicine to law firms. I have a compliance business which will sort of better communication in business and also sort of eliminating the underpayment so everybody knows what their awards, their rights, everything. So communication business. We have an interest in a cosmetic business that's all about young people feeling beautiful about themselves rather than what the media tells us what is beautiful. Is it a Jenner girl or whatever? This is not who we're supposed to be. People are beautiful as they are. So it's really about humanity more than anything else.
Fantastic. Pitzy, I have 2 more questions for you. One, who would you like to hear on the show next?
I think Andrew McConnell on food because I feel Andrew has done more for food in Melbourne than really anybody I can think of because it's unpretentious, it's multinational, it's every one of his venues has a different style and I think he's very humble in what he has done.
Beautiful. And the very last question I have for you, Pitzy, is what is the next step for Pitzy Folk?
Keep going and bang your head against the wall and just keep fighting and do what you love and enjoy it.
Beautiful. Thank you very much for being on the program today, Pitzy.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Pleasure is mine.
This program is hosted by James Henderson, with technical production by Jake Olver. Voiceovers were by Angus Brennan and Shim Phelan. Thanks to our distribution team, led by Stephanie Holland, and a special thanks to you for tuning in every week. This program was produced by H Media. We'll see you soon.
I went last year to Costa Rica and I did ayahuasca, and I had a sort of a re-look at my life, and it's quite interesting when you sort of do sort of spiritual things. I've never been very spiritual in my life. I've always been sort of, if I can't touch it, feel it, it doesn't exist. And my daughter asked me, Dad, do you want to come with me in Costa Rica and do ayahuasca? And have you heard of ayahuasca?
I have.
Yeah. I thought, what the fuck do I need ayahuasca for? And I thought, but my daughter asked me, and that's good enough for me. So I went with her, and I think I got 10 times more out of it than she did. And it really sort of reinforced my whole environmental, like sort of leaving the world a better place than you found it. Really, that's sort of, it's not for glory, it's nothing, it's other than that we live in a beautiful place and a beautiful planet. And why the fuck do we have to fuck it up?
Totally.
Half of it is greed, half of it is bullshit. We don't need plastic, I could tomorrow get this into Coles and Woolies and sell pallets of plastic bottles of water. What for? It's cheap, nothing.
How do you see something like, because someone made a comment on a previous episode about the fact that all these delivery platforms and home delivery is actually promoting plastic usage. People can't reuse these things at home, this cutlery or bags or whatever it's delivered in.
I, for the first time in my life, used Uber yesterday because I had to go to the dentist. I thought, what can I eat before I go to the dentist? I had a hamburger from Grilled, and it came in a plastic bag, and a paper bag with wrapping and all this. And I ate it at my desk. And it was the most unsatisfying meal I've ever had because I had no social interaction. It was soggy by the time I got it because the beetroot leaked out. And I felt like I wasted a meal.
That's more expensive than eating at the venue.
Yes, but it's just sort of a waste of a meal because by the time you get it here, it's 10 minutes old and the bread gets soggy, the juice runs into it. And I much rather go up to Tokyo Tina and have a bowl of rice with some nice something in it.
I like that. Yeah.
And it's quick and it tastes better, and I'm eating it with real cutlery in a real environment with people around me who actually have an interaction instead of some bloke on a bicycle giving me a paper bag.
Yes. Because they're not the most hospitable characters.
They don't give a fuck.
No.
Yeah, they just want $3.50 to deliver it.
That's right.
And would I ride a bicycle from up there to here to give somebody a $3.50? No, I wouldn't. So, yeah, it's sad. But I think all that Uber Eats, and look, even Uber, sort of, I think I use Uber sometimes because it's more reliable than taxis. And it's really the taxi industry's own fault that they have got to that level because they had it to themselves. They had a monopoly. And suddenly somebody gave them a run for their money, did it better, quicker. The thing I hated about taxis was you ring up and say, I need a taxi to go to the city. First taxi available. When the fuck is that?
Yeah.
And you sit there and half an hour later you ring them up
Where's the taxi?
and they said, oh, he was supposed to have picked you up 20 minutes ago. I will get the first taxi available again.
Yep.
You have no...
Yep.
Well, at least with an Uber, I know that if the guy doesn't want me, he drives around the block 5 times and says, cancels you.
That's right.
And can't find you. But do I like Uber? No, because it's exploiting people, it's underpaying them, it's competing against an industry that had it to themselves.
A lot of change happening in that space as well.
And it's good that it's happening because it gives them, all of them have to now be on guard and have to deliver a better service.
Competition's good.
Yeah, I
Keeps
agree.
people alert.
Yeah.
Pitzy, I'm going to turn this back off again. I'm really glad we got a little bit extra.